Hey everybody, it's Rachel and welcome to my channel. Today is a different video for you guys. It is actually May 18th, I believe, Thursday. And I promised you guys a video kind of detailing a little bit about how I'm going to organize my quilt fabric for my quilt version of 60 by 60. I'm out of breath. If you're new here, my 60 by 60 is a challenge for me to get 60 quilt tops finished, not quilted, not put together, but at least the tops finished, and 60 cross stitch pieces finished by the time I turn 60, which is in 6 years. My birthday is at the end of May, and so I will be turning 54. And so this is my goal that I have set for myself. I'm gonna catch my breath here. Anyway, if you don't know me, and you've just started watching it, you won't recognize this cabinet right here. This cabinet, I used to sit in front of it for my videos, and I inherited this from my mom. When she passed away, it'll be 5 years, end of May, that she passed away, and I inherited this. It was full of fabric, but it was not all of her fabric. I inherited so much more from her. Plus I had my own stash. My mom and I have both been quilting. My mom since about the mid 80s, me since about the early 90s. Right after I got married, I started quilting. So I have a ton of fabric. I have not kept up with my fabric. I tend to buy more than I sew. And also Mom and I had a quilt business. We had a quilt business where we did shows and we did, we traveled with it. And so it was a lot of fun. It was in the days before the internet. And so we had a little catalog, it was great. It was fun. It was something we did. But when I had my first son, we kind of stopped. And by then my mom had 3 grandkids and she was just ready to really embrace that time of her life. And so she packed it all away. She put it in storage. And when she passed away, I discovered it all. And being me, I love scrappy quilts. So the fact that they were very 90s-ish fabrics didn't mean a whole lot to me because I just saw colors. Like you'll see in this cabinet, for the most part, there's a glare. I'm sorry, y'all. It's organized by color or by style. Like I really like reproduction fabrics, either in the 30s or the Civil War style. And so I keep those together. If it has that feel where it may not be an actual reproduction, but it just feels like something from the 30s or feels like something from the Civil War, I will put it in its own little section. I also have them separated by charm packs, jelly rolls, different things like that, just to kind of help me if I want to make a quick jelly roll quilt, charm pack quilt, whatever. I have them available. So so I don't know if I told you, but that's the gist of this video, telling you how I'm organizing. I told you that. Anyway, so anyhow, so that's this cabinet. It does have some vintage linens and some vintage sewing stuff that was my mom's and my grandmother's, but for the most part, it's fabric. And if you watch my floss tubes behind me, which is right there, is more fabric. And what you don't know is we have several storage tubs in an empty bedroom with more fabric. So that is why I challenged myself to do this, why I'm trying to get this kind of project done. So anyway, and I'm trying to think of something to do for crochet. I will probably do 6 by 60. I don't think I can do 60 crochet projects in that time. So I'll probably do 6 by 60. So my quilts that I'm planning, for the most part, in order to qualify to be a quilt top, it's got to be either doll size or king size, between those two sizes. So they can be as small as a doll size or a wall hanging, all the way up to a king size quilt. So that's my thing. I have a few rules for myself. One of them is fabric. I have been a member of the Sew Sampler box from Fat Quarter Shop since year 1. I took off 2 years and I've missed it. As much as I don't really care for the fabrics, Not that I don't, they're not my style. I missed getting the box in, so I went ahead and for my birthday this year, I resubbed. So I'll probably be getting in around June. So that's where I have a lot of my pre-cuts from, is from that box. So fabric, that is the only fabric that I will allow myself to buy. That, backing fabrics, and neutrals, background fabrics. I do have one whole bin full of, at one point, I think when Joann's had, you know, their keepsake fabrics or whatever for $3.99, I think I went and bought like a yard of like 10 different ones. So I have a good bit, but not enough. I know I don't have enough. So anyway, so that is my rules, is buying fabric. Hopefully I don't. I will allow myself to buy remnants if I find them for a really, really good price in either the Joann's or the Hobby Lobby bin. So that's it. That's all I'm allowing myself to buy. I have enough fabric to last me probably until I'm 60, probably even after that. So let's get into how I'm organizing them. My number one organizing tip is this right here. These are from the Dollar Tree, which I like to refer to as the Dollar Quarter Tree, 2.5 gallon storage bags. I used these back when I used to scrapbook, and they have the slider, so that's good. Because they were the only thing that held 12 by 12 sheets of paper. So I have been using these roughly 30 years. I love them. I love them for storing things. They're 6 for $1.25. So they're fairly affordable, and they hold a quilt top, or at least the fabric for. Okay, so this is my number one tip right here. 2.5 gallon free Ziploc bags. So Dollar Tree, $1.25. Okay, the next thing I'm doing is I am pulling fabrics. So I have right here, these are things I found in my mom's stash, and they are from Venner Tax right here, back in the day. But they are, let me see, I have it written down. They are 4x4 squares. 4x4. You know how hard it is to find patterns for 4x4 squares? Well, I found this picture, and I wrote on it, so y'all are just gonna have to, it was just something I found, and somebody had written how they made it, and so I printed it up, and that's keeping this in this bag with these pieces. Also included this bag, and the reason I chose that pattern were these 2x4 rectangles. So right here is one quilt kit. Now, will it be enough to make a top? I don't know. Will I find more of those little packs of 4x4 squares? Probably so. Like I said, every time I open a box, I find like 2 or 3 of them. I think my mom might have belonged to their Fabric of the Month club or something, and so that's why she had. The only thing I'm kind of iffy about is there is one that's Civil War, so that'll probably be the last one that I use because I don't want to mess it up. But anyway, so that is basically, essentially, how I'm organizing things. I have this right here. These are all these, you know, back in the 90s, we had these very Victorian decoupage-y looking things. So I'm trying to figure out what to do with these. And then right here, I have in my drawer with all of my, with some of my jelly rolls, I do have a couple of jelly roll patterns that I've printed out. So I print them out. That way, when the time comes and I am ready to make a quilt, and I want to do something quick, and I know that for the most part, a jelly roll quilt, if it doesn't require weird cuts, and by weird, I mean like, you know, half square triangles or cutting your jelly roll down to 1.5. I don't like patterns that do that. Like when I get a pattern for a layer cake and they tell me to cut my layer cake 8.5 inch square, I might as well use fat quarters or yardage for that. I'm not going to mess up a layer cake that way. Anyway, so if I feel like doing something quick, I'll open that drawer, I'll grab a jelly roll pattern, I'll grab a jelly roll that I like, and I'll sew. And so hopefully being organized like this will help me to get some things done. So right now, in the process of cleaning my room, which I'm still doing, which I'm hiding mess from y'all right here. I'm hoping to find, you know, maybe some more 4-inch squares, you know, and I mean, I can cut some more. I have yardage. For the most part, my mom and I bought fat quarters. They had just come out. They were new. Stores were kind of doing them themselves. They weren't really, companies weren't really selling them. I think the first fat quarter bundle I bought was by Judy Rothamel, and it was an Aunt Grace. 1930s. That was the first fat quarter bundle that I bought, and I think actually as a designer she put them together herself. So we bought fat quarters. Mom and I both like scrappy quilts. Mom had a little different philosophy than I did, which is why everything's arranged by color, because she would buy, if she wanted to make a teal and purple quilt, she would buy a bunch of different teals and a bunch of different purples, and she would make them. So it was scrappy, but it was controlled. And so that's my mom's version of scrappy. Now, on to the next one. In order to be qualified as a project, in order for me to view it as a finished quilt top, I don't have to do everything to it. This is another thing I will allow myself to buy, and that is incomplete quilt tops at the thrift store. If I see an incomplete quilt top at the craft store, I will purchase it. I have several of them. If you've been watching for a while, you've seen my hauls and whatnot. I do have several of them, and if I do buy something, I will probably do a separate video. I'm going to try to keep my floss tube, my cross stitching separate from my quilting, just because I do plan on doing a bit more quilting than I normally do. So I will allow myself to do that. I am putting together several quilts that I was given, quilt blocks. I plan on putting the quilt tops together that I was given the blocks. Oof, I'm struggling with this phrase. My cousin gave me some quilt blocks that my aunt had made. I'll get it out eventually. For those of you that don't know, this next week, 2 weeks, is going to be really hard. My aunt, my mom's oldest sister, and I'm going to include a picture of them somewhere, either whatever. My aunt also had a quilt store here in town, and she's the one that got my mom into quilting. They were 7 years apart. My aunt, and then my mom, and then the rest of the siblings. And my aunt passed away exactly 1 week before my mom. And so my cousin and I really kind of just, we would get together and talk. And we'd get together and talk at my aunt's quilt store. And she would give me stuff. And she'd say, do you want this? Do you want this? Do you want this? And I took it. I'm like, yeah, I'll finish it. It's been 5 years. It'll be 5 years this May that they both passed away. And so anyway, I have a bit of those. I finished some of them during COVID, but I still have some more from my aunt. I have some that I've bought at thrift stores, like I showed y'all in my last Floss Tube Tuesday. I have that quilt that I want to put together, and then I have some that I have started, and I'm going to show you what I've started. I do have this quilt, and I showed it in my first quilt video, and I think it's probably my only quilt video. I don't think I have a whole lot. This is a quilt that I had started using mainly pieces that I got in scrap bags at my local quilt store when we lived in Tennessee. The only thing I have done is sewn blocks together. This center part was in a scrap bag. It was a classroom sample. And so I would purchase these. There was another lady that would also purchase them, but she made bags that she sold on Etsy. So I thought that was kind of cool. So it was always a fight to get the right thing from her. Anyway, not really, but so that is one quilt that if I ever get that, hopefully, hopefully it is finished before I turn 60. I have all the pieces for it together. I just need to get them all together, and then that way I can sit down and just finish it. The next one I'm doing is, this is called the Stash Buster block 1 and 2, and I'm gonna try to link it below. It's a blog, and I think, I'm not gonna say who it is, but anyway, I'm not gonna say who it is because I can't remember. I just read her blog this morning, but this is her Stash Buster blocks. Now, these are all 1.5-inch squares. I use these when I cut up my scraps. And then this orange fabric, I had it and I was like, I'm not going to use this in anything else. I'm going to use this in here. I need a focus fabric to focus away from the fact that I am sewing all manner of stuff together. So this is my leader and ender project, believe it or not. When I do sew, I have a basket with my little 1.5-inch squares and I sew them together until I have enough to make another block. Let me see. And then this is one that I started. Now this is from a website by Quilted Twins. If you've never been there, you need to go check her out. This is a mosaic quilt. And you've probably seen it, and you usually sew it by rows, but she did this pattern so that you sew it by blocks. And this is the only one I've made. It uses, let me see, four and a half by, looks like 3-inch squares, 4.5 by, or 2 3/4. I don't know. Anyway, I cut a bunch. They're all in a bag with the pattern. So this is another one. I've already started it, but my goal is to complete the quilt tops, not necessarily start and finish the quilt tops. And then the last one that I'm going to show you, not necessarily the last one, these are string blocks that I made. And these were strips that my cousin gave to me in a huge bag. And I sorted them by color and I did the string blocks. I do mine on muslin because I don't like tearing things off. And so this is one of them with the red, you can see the red center strip. And this is one with a blue center strip. And this one has another red center strip. So my goal is to basically do a bunch of different center strips, piece them together, and make a quilt. So this is something I do when I just want to work quickly, but these are projects that I work on a little bit at a time. I usually like to sit down and finish a quilt. But lately I haven't been doing that. I've been working on several different projects and I'll sit down and do a little bit at a time. But like things like these are, I'm pointing to the jelly rolls in case you can't see. These are the ones I will probably sit down and do them in one sitting and count them done. And so that's my actual goal, but these are some that I just kind of work on. So these count as, when they're done, they count. Anything I have started already, anything that I haven't started, anything that I've picked up at thrift stores that somebody else has started, those all count into my general count. I'm hoping to buy a notebook, one for cross stitch and one for quilting, that I will document what I've done, what pattern I've used, you know, if there's a designer to the pattern, what fabric I might have used, if like these are the 1930s reproductions. These are scraps actually, because my aunt would put together jelly rolls, her own jelly rolls of this fabric back in the day. And so anyway, I'll, you know, that'll be kind of, what am I, oh, the designer of the fabric designer, whatnot. Those kind of things I will hopefully keep in those scrapbooks that I plan on making. So anyway, so that's what I plan on doing. This is my goal for myself, to keep better records, to get all this stuff done, and hopefully whittle down some of this stash that I have. I do have some rewards for myself. I'm not quite sure exactly how I'm going to do that. Like, you know, if you know, I do have an eBay store. And so I do sell things on eBay that I find at thrift stores and whatnot. So I'm saving that money. I'm saving any birthday money I get. And I am hoping to buy me, if you're not familiar with the Grace Cutie frame, it's a frame that you can put quilts on. It's not huge. It'll probably fit on this little table with a little overhang. And you can do more of a long army type quilting. Free motion, instead of using your domestic. You use a domestic machine, but it sits this way versus this way. Anyway, it's really neat. That's one of the things that I like to buy myself. And also a Juki, the Juki that would fit on it to help quilt quilts. So right now I have not set myself a goal on how many quilts I want fully finished or how many scrapbook scrapbook, oof, no, or how many cross-stitch pieces I want fully finished. But for the most part, I am just right now focusing on finishing. And then hopefully I can get some stuff fully finished, because I do have about 12 vintage quilt tops that I need to quilt. And that does not include the non-vintage quilt tops that I've already made, that my mom's made. So I need to get all those things quilted and passed out to whoever wants them, and you know, get all that stuff done. So that's my goal. So hopefully by the time I turn 60, I can take myself off of a fabric buying freeze and get most of this stuff out of the way. So that's all I have. I do plan on, like I said, hopefully once a month updating you guys on what's going on. This is kind of my intro to it. I will officially begin sewing quilt tops on my birthday, which is May 30th. And so that will, anything finished after May 30th or on May 30th and after will count in my 60 by 60. So anyway, so if you've stayed this long, thank you so much for stopping by. I will see you guys Tuesday, Lord willing, with another floss tube, and I will see y'all later. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye, everybody.